Now that your workspace is ready, it's time to cut your first piece of ExoShield and get it laid onto the windshield. Always remember that the edges of ExoShield are extremely sharp and can cut you if mishandled. In this video, we're going to cover some best practices when it comes to first handling ExoShield, like how to lay raw ExoShield on a windshield without creasing it, and how your finger setup should look before even applying any heat for molding. One thing to remember is that every windshield's a little bit different, but the methods we're teaching here will work on every windshield. We fully expect that you're going to take these techniques and develop your own methods. But if you follow these steps when you're first learning, you're going to find your rhythm faster, which means less wasted film, less wasted time as you polish up those skills. Let's flip it over to Laurence and have him take us through film handling and finger setup.
So I have measurements on my wall. I like it on my film on a rack. Another good way is if you don't have film on a rack, or if you're mobile, is if you have an 8-foot table, you can put your roll of film in the box at the end of the table and you can have marks. Most of your windshields are going to be between 60 and 70 inches in length and width. So you can mark it on a table and slide your film out. So one thing you don't want to be doing is ever wasting film. And the worst thing is if you cut short. So if you have to cut 62 inches of film and you cut 60, well, now you're wasting 60 inches instead of maybe 4 or 5 if you cut a little bit too long. When you're rolling the film up, be careful because you can put indentations in the film. Now I always lay the film with the hard code side up. As I've explained, years and years and years, I've never once had an issue. This hard coat on ExoShield is phenomenal. You can do it either way. The only one of the main reasons I always do it with the hard coat side up is if I'm on a real difficult windshield where it's involved a lot of molding, adding a lot of heat to the film, I have taken the risk of burning the actual liner. So this eliminates that situation. But on your average car, it doesn't matter either way, other than how you cut the film on the bottom. If the windshield is not symmetrical, and like a Tesla, then you want to make sure that the hard coat side is up the way it's going to be installed when you make that cut, so you don't have an offset cut. So as this piece lays here, and again, like I said, I cut it a little bit shorter because it's just a demonstration purpose. I want to make sure you're seeing the fingers on the film real well. But this piece is just laying there. I haven't manipulated it with my hands. I haven't tacked it. I re-wet it underneath and I added soap and water on top. Again, the soap and water allows the film to move, which is one of the things that's important to me. Now I organize the fingers out a little bit before I get started with the heat gun. I generally will organize out all the bottom fingers, maybe the top, but a lot of times the film's going to move a lot, so I'm going to have to reorganize the top anyway. And on certain types of cars, a lot of times we have to shift the film up to be able to get to this outside bottom edge of these fingers, and then we're going to have to shift the film back down when we go to the top on a lot of different cars, depending on where the hood of the car sits, how deep down in the cowling does the film go, those types of factors. You're looking at these fingers, and completely different than how we approach tint film is we approach these fingers individually, number one. Number two is generally we're going to start on this outside open edge and work our way through the finger and out. We can start in the middle and work down and so forth, but at some point we have to address this edge. So when I have real large fingers, a lot of times just at the beginning, I might start my molding process at the top of the finger and work out just to get it some molding going on, split the finger off, but then I will go back and make sure I'm hitting these edges because I got to start closing this open edge at some point. Generally when the fingers get a little bit, about half the size of what you're seeing here is when I start doing that.
So at this point, you've got ExoShield laid onto the windshield, you've done a rough cut of the film, and your fingers are in their basic arrangement. Next, Laurence is going to take us through his tips for cutting ExoShield.